Storytime of how I found out that my mom was putting our dad's ashes in our food. Yep, our mom would put our dead dad's ashes in our dinner. So basically, after my dad died, my mom showed zero emotion. It's like she really didn't care at all. Like she kind of wanted it to happen. His death was like an unsolved case, and nobody knows how he actually died. And now that I get to think about it, it might have been my mom, but I don't want to jump to conclusions. And if it was her and she sees this video, I don't want to end up like him. Anyways, back to the story. So about a month after he died, she would always post a picture of me and my brother's dinner with the caption, "You'll always be with them." Literally every single night. And honestly, nobody really caught on. All the comments were like, we're praying, this and that. Until one day I was just sitting on the couch and I look over and my mom was pouring something into the mashed potatoes. So I go a little closer and I see her pouring the ashes of my dad into our mashed potatoes. Listen, this story only gets 10 times worse, so like for a part 2. Part 2 of how my mom was putting my dad's ashes in me and my brother's dinner. Continuing on with the story, after I see her literally pouring my dad's ashes into our mashed potatoes, and I mean, this lady literally sees me staring at her pouring the ashes into our mashed potatoes, and she like doesn't even say anything. I was just, a little shocked. So after that, I just kept quiet until after dinner, and I was mad at my brother that night, so I just let him eat the mashed potatoes. So after dinner, I went up to my mom and asked her why she was putting our dad's ashes in our food. And her exact words were, "Your father was a bad man. He wasn't meant to be here." I said, "What does that have to do with you putting his ashes in our dinner?" She goes, "It will just cleanse your soul. The witches told me to feed my children's father to them." Bishwe? I ended up telling my brother, but then me and him decided not to ever say anything ever again because we don't want her little spirits telling them to do the same thing with us, so...
Story time about how my boyfriend's best friend tried to ruin our relationship. So a little background information. My boyfriend used to be best friends with this one girl. We're gonna call her Jamie. Well, Jamie and my boyfriend were best friends for years, and their friendship was more flirty than anything. Well, him and I got to know each other during track season, so we were always hanging out after school, and sometimes Jamie would be there too. Well, the one night him and I were on FaceTime and we were talking about how we really liked each other. So the next day we started dating, and I was good friends with Jamie too. Then after we started dating, she started acting really weird towards me. Like I would try to say hi whenever I saw her in the hallways, and she would just give me a dirty ass look. So then I told my boyfriend how I thought that she was really mad at me, and he said that he would talk to her. Well, a week before him and I started dating, she told us that there was this guy that she really wanted to ask to prom, and she said that she liked him for a while. Well, then my boyfriend said, apparently a few days ago you were hitting on the boy that she was going to ask to prom. So then I started to connect the dots and I was like, oh shit, like for part 2. Part 2 about how my boyfriend's best friend tried to ruin our relationship. So like I said, I started to connect the dots after that. And then I realized that she was talking about my boyfriend. We're just going to call him Josh. But as he's telling me this, I immediately get a FaceTime call from her. So I answer the phone, and she says, well, I think I should just confront the situation now. So the first thing that she says is, you knew I liked Josh. Like, how could you do this to me? I had a poster board and everything. So I'm just like, well, why didn't you tell me that you liked him? And she goes, what the fuck do you mean? Like, you knew. But I was sitting there thinking about the fact that they were best friends for 5 years and nothing ever happened, so it's really not my fault. And then this girl has the nerve to say, I'm pretty sure if you just break up with him now, me and you can get past this and still be friends. So I said no. So then I called my boyfriend, told him that we talked it out, and I didn't even tell him about what she said or anything like that, because I just wanted the situation to be over and done with. So a few weeks after that, she decided to get her brother involved. Her brother and Josh were best friends, by the way. Well, then her brother told Josh that him and I had been hooking up like for part 3. Part 2 about my boyfriend's best friend trying to ruin our relationship. So like I said, then she got her brother involved. And her brother and Josh were best friends. A little background information here. Josh had stopped talking to Jamie for those few weeks after she called me that night because she was making things really awkward in our relationship and just giving us a lot of problems. So the one night, Jamie's brother texts Josh and he's like, bro, I think it's mad sus how you cut her off when your girlfriend's the problem. So obviously Josh texted him and said, what do you mean? And her brother was like, she hits me up all the time to hang out. We've been hooking up. I can even send you the nudes that she sent me. And before I started dating Josh, there was this boy that I was talking to for like 6 months and I ended up sending him nudes. And yes, they got around the school. But surprisingly, Josh had no idea about them. So her brother sent Josh the nudes and said, bro, here, like, see her face is in it and everything. Lesson learned, don't put your face in nudes. So then me and 3 other people explained to my boyfriend that those were from a while ago. And after that, he just blocked both of them and we're still together.
Story time of how I got caught cheating on my boyfriend with his brother. So me and my boyfriend at the time were on and off. Our relationship was really toxic and I was tired of the whole relationship. And everything started to go downhill when he cheated on me and I took him back. I know, stupid, but I really wanted us to work, so I stayed with him. But throughout the relationship, I was very insecure. I constantly thought he was cheating on me, so I started talking to other guys. One of them being his brother. And his brother was the biggest player of them all, but I didn't care as long as I wasn't stressed about what my boyfriend was doing. So one day after school, I met up with his brother at his house and we got it on. I thought that day he had football practice, but no, he came straight home and walked in on us. If y'all want to know what happened after that, let me know down below in the comments. This is part 2 of how I got caught cheating on my boyfriend with his brother. So, like I said earlier, I go to their house to go see his brother, and we got it on. And that day, I really thought he had football practice, but no, he came straight home and walked in on us. When he came in, he grabbed the covers off of us and he literally starts fighting his brother. Then comes over to me and drags me into the hallway, throws all my clothes at me, calling me all types of names and telling me to get the hell out. He then ran and stormed out of the house. And to be honest, the whole time I wasn't even mad. I was glad he caught me cheating on him. Finally gave him a taste of his own medicine.
This story time is a warning to please be cautious if you ever speak to someone over the internet. So when I was 14 and still in high school, my local area was going through a weird stage where someone was trying to contact a lot of the 14-year-olds and see if they wanted to join an escort agency. This was done over Facebook, and of course, most of the girls just ignored these messages. However, my friends and I thought it'd be funny if we ended up messaging this person back. Obviously, bad idea. We weren't serious about meeting up with this person, we really just thought it was a big joke. However, once I was by myself, I continued to message this person. They kept commenting on how beautiful I was and said that I was like a sister to them. I was obviously very impressionable at 14 years old and was wanting all the attention I could get, so I continued to message the person on the other side of the phone for the next couple of weeks, not realizing that I was being groomed. After the next couple of weeks, I was sitting in class and I got an extremely panicked message from my mom saying that I need to come home immediately and that she needs my phone. I guess a family friend of ours had told her about the messages and had also seen a lot of the escort advertisements. So my mom read through the messages, quickly called the police, and the conclusion was to block the account and be more careful next time. I thought it was case closed, but I was wrong. Stay tuned for part 2 and follow me on Instagram. Storytime part 2 on how I was groomed over the internet at the age of 14. So after the police took several statements from my mom and I was told to block the account and just be more cautious, I thought everything was done. But 3 years later, I was sitting with my friends when I got a phone call. The police had contacted me saying that my statement had come up again in another case. This is when they let me know that it wasn't an escort agency at all. It was a man who was sitting by his computer and messaging young girls to come meet him. He had been doing this to hundreds of girls for the past 15 years. The next couple years of my life were filled with police interviews and statements, waiting for actions for me and his other victims. The guy had a trial but pleaded not guilty, which meant that we all had to go to court. The court date was set, but obviously the coronavirus became a huge issue, and it was set to be moved to another date, which I was very thankful about because I was 7 months pregnant with my daughter, and just overall fearful of what would happen. So this guy had a warrant out for his arrest and he didn't show up for his plea bargain, so he was put out as a missing person, which we were all notified of, but that scared me to death. However, we ended up getting a phone call recently saying that they found the man and he had taken his own life. And that's how everything ended. I hope everyone stays safe, and if you have a story you'd like to share, follow me on Instagram and DM me. So this is about the time that I ended up dating a guy in order to cover up for dating another guy. So I was kinda sorta low-key cheating at the time. But I can explain. So to provide a little bit of backstory, I was living with my biological father at the time. Not exactly what I wanted to do, but this was because of some circumstances that were going on. So due to this, I had to move to a new school and start my senior year at a different place. A few days had started and I didn't really like it very much, so they ended up changing my classes around. And I got stuck in this new art class. So I walked in and immediately this cute guy walked in. He introduced himself, I'll call him Brad, and he said, "Hey," and we ended up talking the entire class period. So not only was he cute, but he had an amazing personality as well. So obviously I had to give him my number. There's no other option. That night he texted me how pretty I was and how he was dying to get to know me. But the text got a little bit explicit, and my father ended up going through our text messages and immediately did not like this man right off the bat. So when we started dating, I didn't get his approval either, and my dad made us break up. I still liked this man and was completely heartbroken. When I went to school the next day, I was told by another guy that he liked me. So I ended up coming up with a little plan. Stay tuned for part 2 and follow me on Insta. Storytime part 2 about how I was dating a guy in order to cover up for dating another guy. So after my dad forced me to break up with the guy that I was currently dating because he didn't like him, and I realized that this other guy at school people did like me, I figured that I would talk to Brad and tell him this little plan that I had. This new guy that liked me was very cute, but not my type at all. But he did have a better standing with my father. So I decided to start dating the guy that my dad liked, but also dating Brad on the low-key. Every single art class, I would spend time with Brad, and I would text him all day, and we would FaceTime at night, but then I would go on dates with the other guy. That way it would be like a cover for my dad, so he really wouldn't go through my phone. Well, yes, I was two-timing, and this was extremely exhausting. I really felt like I screwed up when I started to develop feelings with the new guy. I tried to literally list off reasons on why I didn't like this guy, but honestly, he was just too caring and too sweet for me not to. So I ended up breaking up with him because I felt like this was going too far, and I got back with Brad and just did it behind my dad's back. But Brad then left me for his ex, so I ended up sneaking over to the other guy's house, and that's how I lost my virginity. Now I'm happily married to a totally different guy 3 years after this whole situation. If you guys have a story you'd like to share, follow me and DM me on Instagram.